Hey, this is Dan Strong with ExcelVbaIsFun. We're going to learn part 4 of how to use a grid control in Excel. We're going to learn how to create a new column, but first, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell, and download the workbook below or above to follow along. Let's do it. Finally, we get to dive into some of the really juicy stuff. So if you're following along with me, which you ought to be, let's go ahead and go to Section 2 folder in our course download kit. So we're going to go to Section 2, creating your first grid. Now, don't look at the completed files right now. Please try to follow along. Let's have some fun together first. So go to the Clean Files folder to follow along. You're going to double click on your first grid clean, or you can alternatively open Excel, and then you can actually open and navigate to that folder by browsing. So either way, whatever's good for you. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the file. Obviously, you're going to start out on the home sheet because it's pretty obvious. It's yellow and it says, hey, let's dive in and create our first X grid. Now, the first thing, let's get it out of the way. We have to put a grid right here. This is good practice. If you've already got the demo version installed, we're going to go to Developer. We're going to go to Insert, and then we're going to go to the More controls at the bottom right hand of the ActiveX section. From here, I'm going to type E for X grid and scroll down a little bit until I get to the EX grid, and then I'm going to hit OK. Now all we have to do is just size it whatever size that we'd like for it to be, and bam, we have a grid called Grid 1. You could rename it something else and hit enter right here, or you can right click, go to Properties, and rename it from there. But I'm just going to let it say Grid 1. It's the only grid on the sheet, so there's no secret as to what it's for or where it's at. I'm going to take it off of design mode, and bam, now we have this nice little grid. Alright, so the focus of this lecture is actually to add our very first column. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to hit Alt F11 to get in the Visual Basic Editor, and I'm going to make sure and double click on Module 1. Alright, so you're going to double click on Module 1. If your modules folder is collapsed, you can double click here or click on the plus sign, but make sure you open up Module 1. We're going to create our first sub procedure. So you type sub, and then you do a space bar, and then we're going to call this one Add Column. Now, there's nothing magical about that. I hit enter. You can really rename it whatever you want, but I'm going to call this Add Column because that's what we're going to do. First of all, how do we locate this particular sheet? Well, the name of the sheet, as you saw down here, is Home. That is the sheet name, but the code name, the object's code name to the left of that is actually called Sheet 1 because we haven't renamed it anything. So we can actually refer to it more easily by its sheet code name of Sheet 1. So let me show you that really quick. So if I type in Sheet 1 dot, and then I refer to do you remember the name of the grid is Grid 1, so Grid 1. And I'm going to hit Tab to autocomplete that word. So Sheet 1 has a grid called Grid 1. And I'm going to say dot columns dot add. And then all I have to do is hit a space bar. For the add method has one parameter, and that is what is the column caption. And that's going to be as a string. So I'm going to hit space bar, and I'm going to give it a stringed caption. That means it needs to be inside of quotation marks. So like the caption of this column might be the word name, for example. So if I go ahead and run this, I can either hit F5 or I can click the Run button, but I like to step through things, especially if they're a new concept. I don't know why, I just like to go slowly. So I'm going to hit F8 a couple times. The first line doesn't do anything, but this line, if you'll watch to the left, as I hit F8 right now, it just created our very first column. You can even hover over there and kind of see the color change. And then let's hit click here and hit F8 to finish off that macro. So now we actually have a column. There's nothing in there. There's no rows or items, if you will. But there will be in just a second. In the next lecture, we're going to add our very first row, and we'll get to play around with some data in just a second. It's going to go a lot faster from this point on because we already have the sheet open, we already have our code window open, and we can just add things bam, bam, bam really quickly. We'll see you in the next lecture.